So I got the transmission out and moved it over to here. It's actually not that big, like I was saying. It's pretty tiny, pretty simple, kind of neat. And I wanted to show you this. This is the clutch right here, and this abrasive surface around the outside. That's the part that you're actually disconnecting from the engine when you push the clutch pedal in, and these springs on the inside help it to return back when you let the pedal out. So this just goes up against here like that, like so. And like I had mentioned a couple times earlier, this is the flywheel. Let me get a light here. This is the flywheel, and I mentioned, I think, that this gear on the outside, that's where the starter gear connects, and it turns the whole engine over. And once I get this off, there should be a little bit more to see. It'll be much more interesting the further I get in. I'm really excited that I've gotten this far so quickly. So, more cool stuff to come. It's a good thing I like making these videos, because every time I do one, I have to turn the heater off. And it's only 46 degrees in here right now, so it's a little chilly. Anyway, so as you can see, I've taken most of the things off the outside of the engine. I have a bit more to go, but I wanted to stop for a second and show you this, because I found the first sign that this engine is in a bad way, other than the horrible sound it made when it was running. So these are where the spark plugs go, and these are the ignition coils. So these sit down in here like this, and that's how electricity is delivered to the spark plug, and you'll see more. I'll show you why that works in a little bit, but normally at the end of a spark plug, you'll see a healthy spark plug is golden brown, maybe a tad of white, and of course spark plugs are designed to burn or ignite the fuel and air mixture. And as you can see, this one is very, very black. And that black is carbon, and it's a byproduct of oil being burnt. And since only fuel and air is supposed to be detonated in that combustion chamber, that of course means oil has gotten in there somehow. My guess is probably piston rings, and that's a bad thing. So that's definitely detrimental to an efficient motor. So, and I bet the rest of them look exactly the same way. So we'll see. I'll pull them out, and we'll see what they look like. Okay. I did actually pull the rest of those spark plugs out, and all four of them are filthy with carbon. So it's pretty clear that oil has gotten into that part of the engine where it shouldn't be. So we can assume some of the seals in there are bad. So this is my very favorite part about engine work, is taking the valve cover off, because this is where you really start to get to see some of the internal components of the engine, and they're so cool, and I'll show them to you in a second. Actually, let me do this first. So at the bottom of the engine, inside the engine, is kind of a long, complicated rod that runs from here to here. That's the end of it on this side, and that's the end of it over here. It's called a crankshaft, and I'll show it to you once I get in there, but the crankshaft does everything else, or helps the rest of the components do their job. Like you can see, everything else is attached to this crankshaft by the belt. This is the timing belt, and this is the originally when you had it at the shop, this is what they thought was broken. And in retrospect, that doesn't really make sense to me now, because if this was broken, then the car wouldn't run at all. But anyway, in any case, so when the crankshaft turns, it does a lot of other things in the engine, which is neat. So let me pull this off, and we'll take a look at what's under here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Set that aside. Alright, look at this. This is the best. Okay, let me see. As you can see, I got a couple flywheel bolts in the back of the crank here, so I can get some leverage on it with a screwdriver. But I can actually turn the crankshaft, and you can see some of the things that it does in here. These are just tensioners, so they just change the direction of the belt so that it can go up here with the right amount of tension. So really, the crank is designed to just turn this one other thing. This here, it's hard to see, but maybe something to point with here. This crankshaft is turning this, and it's called a camshaft. And you can look in here, it runs from this side all the way to the other. That's the end of it over here. And it's really hard to see, but at different points on the camshaft are what they call lobes. And they're kind of out of round places. And so when the camshaft spins, those little lobes, they kind of go around. You can kind of see one right there, it's a little higher than the rest of them. But they go around, and they hit these little rockers. This is really hard to see, this is jammed right in here, but that lobe causes this little lever to raise up, and it compresses this spring, and there's a valve in here. Let me get a flashlight. You can see the valve out there in the back, and when this spring is compressed, that valve goes down, and these are intake valves because this is the side of the motor where the air comes in. The air and the fuel come in here. You can actually, I don't know if you can see, but that valve is actually open. So that's how air and fuel gets into the engine. There it is. So let me show you this in real time. It's super cool. This is my favorite thing about engines. They're just so clever. So this turns, crankshaft turns the camshaft, and as the camshaft rotates, you can kind of see it right there. These valves are open right now, and as the camshaft continues to turn, that lobe disappears because it's rotating, and this spring is able to decompress, and then the valve comes back up and cuts off new air from entering the engine. I don't know if you can see that. I hope you can, but it's all very interesting. You see this one here. This one right here is starting a cycle now, and now it's decompressing. And so these are all on different times, so the engine is constantly getting air through different cylinders at different times. And it's super interesting. And I wish I could describe it a little better, but there's so many parts on this little engine that are compressed into little tiny areas. So anyway, that's how the top end of the motor works. And I originally thought I was going to have to replace this whole top part where all these springs and valves and lifters and cams are, but I think what I'll do is I'll probably have to measure every little spring and all the clearances everywhere to see if this part of the engine was worn out due to lack of oil, and if it's bad, I'll just replace the whole thing, or maybe just the component that's bad. But that'll be a project on itself. So right now I'm just gonna take out, I think there are 10 main bolts here, and I'm going to lift those out, and then we're going to see if we can get this is called the cylinder head, this whole big box here, from here up, all the way around to cylinder head. So I'm going to try and take that off the engine, and then from there you should be able to really easily see the pistons, and that's the next cool thing.